What's up, everybody? I'm Miranda with REI. Having the right pair of climbing shoes can make or break a sending session. So let's talk about how to choose your shoes and how to fit them. So there are three main categories of climbing shoes. You have neutral shoes, moderate shoes, and aggressive shoes. We're going to start with the neutral shoes. So neutral shoes like these guys have a straight last. They're constructed basically being flat from the heel to the toe, and they're either going to have a nearly symmetrical toe box or just a slightly asymmetrical toe box. Neutral shoes are great for beginners, as they're generally going to be the comfiest shoes that you'll find, but they're also really good for slotting your toes into cracks, and they're also great for all-day comfort. So if you're doing any multi-pitch climbing or where you're going to have your shoes on for a long period of time, definitely neutral shoes are the way to go. Generally speaking, the rubber is going to be a little bit stiffer on these shoes as well. Neutral shoes, great for all-day comfort, generally good for beginners. Next, we have moderate shoes. Moderate shoes cover the widest range of climbing shoes. They're going to be a little bit less comfortable than a neutral shoe because they have a slight downturn at the toe, and they're going to have a slight asymmetry in the toe backs, but really good option for just a wide range of climbing. There are a lot of different types of moderate shoes, so some of them are going to have the strap closure, some will have lace closure, and they're going to come with all sorts of different features. So last, we have aggressive shoes. When we talk about aggressive shoes, we're looking at an aggressive downturn at the toe, as well as a lot of asymmetry in the toe box. This is going to push your toes into one point. That essentially has your toes act as one big toe, which is going to give you a better point of contact on the rock and gives you more stability. Whereas if you have 5 individual toes moving around, you're not going to get as much stability when you're climbing. These are really great for overhangs or for bouldering in caves, as they're just going to give you a lot of hold on small holds, and they're really great in an overhang as well because that downturn will help you grip onto things. I like to call aggressive climbing shoes a sending shoe. These are the shoes that you pull out of your climbing shoe quiver when you're ready to send the project because they're not very comfortable, and these are generally shoes that you will rip off as soon as you are done with a problem or done with a route. The next thing to consider when you're picking out your shoes are all the features. So the first thing we're going to talk about are the materials. So shoes are generally made from leather or synthetic or a combination of both, and they're generally lined or unlined or a combination of both. Leather shoes like the Mythos here have a benefit of being very comfortable as well as not as stinky as synthetic shoes, but these are going to stretch sometimes up to a full 2 sizes. Whereas with a synthetic shoe or especially a lined synthetic shoe, you're not going to get very much stretch. Instead, you're just going to get the shoe to break in a little bit. So when you fit the shoes, you'll want to make sure you're getting it to fit fairly close to how you want it to fit when you're climbing, whereas with a leather shoe, you can size down pretty significantly. The next feature to consider are closures. So some shoes are lace-up, like these guys here. The benefit of a lace-up shoe is that you can really fine-tune the fit along the whole shoe. So if you need it to be tighter in the toes, you can do that. If you need to have, with these guys specifically, if you need it tighter in the back of the shoe, you can actually tighten up the heel rand on the shoe there. And so this makes these really great if you're putting them on for a long day of climbing. So say you're doing multi-pitch, where you just want your shoes to be on and fit comfortably and not change for the entire day. There are also moccasins, like these guys. So slip-on shoes, like the moccasins, are really good just for the ease of pulling them on and off. Another type of shoe that you'll come across are the strapped shoes or hook and loop closure shoes. So sometimes they'll have a single strap like this or 2 straps, sometimes up to 3 or 4 straps. These are also really great for pulling your shoes on and off quickly. They're not going to have as much adjustability as you get with laces, but the ease of getting them on and off make them a great option for moderate or aggressive shoes where you'll want to take them off after climbing. My preference are straps. I prefer the hook and loop closure just because it's easier to take these shoes off. One thing to consider is that if you do take your shoes off in between climbs, you'll actually make them last a little bit longer if you're not walking around in them. So these shoes are really great for a single pitch, for sport climbing, cragging, for bouldering, which is why they're my choice, as I don't tend to do very much multi-pitch. The next thing to consider when you're buying your shoes is the rubber. So you have thicker rubbers or thinner rubbers, and then stickier rubbers or not as sticky rubbers. Obviously, we want the additional stick from rubbers, but there's a wide variety to choose from Vibram to just proprietary brands of rubber for different shoes. A thinner rubber or a thinner outsole is going to give you more sensitivity, but it's not going to last as long as a thicker rubber. The benefit of this is that you can feel all of the holds, and so you can really rely on your feet more that way, but it's also a downside because you can feel all the holds, and that can sometimes hurt your feet if you're not used to it. Thicker rubber or stiffer soles, such as these guys, like the katanas, is going to give you really good edging, but you won't necessarily be able to feel it on the rock, and so you have to really rely and trust your shoes without being able to feel it. Thicker rubber is generally going to last longer as well, so a lot of shoes that are designed for beginner climbers are going to have a thicker outsole so that you can extend the longevity of the shoe. Thinner rubbered shoes are also really great for slab climbing or smearing, as you can really get more rubber of the shoe on the wall. There are a couple other features to consider when you're picking out your shoes, things like the rand on the toe as well as at the heel. So shoes like these guys that have the additional rubber on the toe rand are going to be really great for toe hooking, and then some shoes will have this slingshot heel rand as well. And what this does is it really engages your heel when you're heel hooking on the wall, and this will help keep the shoe on your foot, whereas a shoe like this that doesn't have that, if you heel hook with this, you'll basically just heel hook the shoe off of your foot. So once you've decided what type of shoe you want, as well as the types of features that you're looking for, the next thing is to find a shoe that fits you best. A climbing shoe that fits properly should feel like a glove, or like there's a bandage wrapped around your foot. So your toes should be touching the front of the shoe as well as slightly bent, not fully bent, not so your knuckles are pressing up into the leather, but also not totally flat and able to move around in the shoe. This is just so that we can push your toes to the front so you get more power on the wall that way. You also don't want any hot spots, so you don't want the shoes so snug that you have parts where the shoe is rubbing and you might develop a blister. You also don't want them so loose that if they break in or stretch out at all, you're basically wearing slippers on the wall. Climbing shoes fit very differently from brand to brand, so be prepared to try on a lot of different shoes. You might find that there's a brand that works really well for you in one size, but then a certain style where you need to size down or size up. So just be prepared to have quite the session of trying on shoes. When you do decide to go in and try on shoes, it's a good idea to do it later in the day when you've been walking around for a while, maybe you've gone for a short hike, gone for a run, or best case scenario, you've been climbing all day, as your feet are going to be swollen, so you get the best idea of how those shoes will feel after a long climb. I generally recommend when people try on shoes that they find a shoe that fits right, and then they try one size or half size smaller than that. This is just so you can compare those two sizes differently and hopefully avoid having any dead space as well as having any hot spots between those shoe sizes. There is no comparison to coming into the store and trying on shoes because, like I said, they're all going to fit differently. So come into your local REI and talk to the experts there. See you later.